The radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this Tuesday, February 10th. God, we're chipping away at February already. Maybe 2027 before we even know it. All right, hope you're having a great week. And it keeps striking me as how the older you get, the faster time goes. I know it's a boomer thing, I guess. All right, we've got a lot to talk about today, I think. Reminder to ask questions. That is the way you get to shape the show. Your questions, I answer them all. I cover them all. I read all your comments that you put in the super chat, not the ones you put in the chat. So wherever you are out there, whatever platform you are, come on over to YouTube. It's much more fun on YouTube where the chat is live and super chat is active, and you can support the show value for value. And yeah, can't do this without you guys. All right, jumping in. There's a bridge. A lot of the most active trade crossing in North America is actually the Ambassador Bridge over the Detroit River. It's a bridge that was built in 1929. Massive quantities of trucks are crossing that bridge every single day. Again, it's the busiest Canada-U.S. border crossing. I think it's the busiest border crossing in North America. But the bridge has been at capacity now for a long time, right? It certainly since it was first discussed in 2012. This bridge has been capacity, and it's needed a replacement. Shippers have wanted an entirely new bridge. The bridge itself is not still the 1929 bridge. It's been modernized and refreshed, but it's a bottleneck. So there's been talk about building a new bridge. And also, the other part is that the other side of the bridge takes you right into Windsor City on the Canadian side, right into its streets. So you want to connect the highway to the highway, and so there was talk about building an alternative bridge. That was discussed pre-financial crisis, but then there was again a lot of angst and because of the recession, and traffic slowed, and so there was no rush to actually build the bridge. And there were one of the big problems is the fact that there are special interest groups, pressure groups. Who would imagine in a mixed economy like ours, arguing to keep the bridge where it is, not to open a new one, not to compete. The Ambassador Bridge, is actually privately owned, and the main owner not only owns the bridge but also owns the gas stations, and on the bridge, and those gas stations actually get to sell gasoline tax-free, duty-free gasoline stations. He wants all the traffic on the bridge. He doesn't want a competitor, so he's been lobbying heavily. He was lobbying heavily during the early 2010s to not build another bridge, and actually, got even somebody like Americans for Prosperity, which is generally free market, to support his argument and to prevent another bridge being built. I mean, again, lobbying thrown around. But ultimately, all right, a decision was made. A bridge needs to be built. We're going to build a bridge, right? We're going to build this bridge. Connects Canada to Detroit, Windsor to Detroit, to facilitate the busiest crossing trade in all of North America, at least until Trump puts on 100% tariffs on the Canadians. Anyway, this bridge is going to cost a lot of money, and the state of Michigan basically came to a point where it couldn't fund it. It didn't have the money, didn't want to put up the money. So the Canadian says, you know what? We'll fund the bridge. So Canada says, we'll pay the whole thing. but the toll, we'll put a toll on our side, and the money collected from the toll will repay for the building of the bridge. In Michigan, you don't have to put a dime in. You don't have to build the bridge. And this was finalized in 2012 under Obama. And then later, the Trump administration in 2016 signed on to it and affirmed the agreement to build the bridge between Canada and the United States. And in this bridge, you know, we live in a country where, God, nothing gets built. And this bridge is going to be opened soon in 2026. It's been done. The Canadians did it. They built it. Hard to believe. Their money. Well, this is Donald Trump yesterday. As everyone knows, everyone, including you and me, everyone knows, the country of Canada has treated the United States very unfairly for decades. Now, things are turning around for the U.S. and fast. But imagine, Canada is building a massive bridge between Ontario and Michigan. They own both the Canada and the United States side, and of course, built it with virtually no U.S. content. President Barack Hussein Obama stupidly gave them a waiver so they could get around the Buy American Act and not use any American products, including our steel. Of course, America didn't even pay for the bridge. Now the Canadian government expects me, as president of the United States, how did that happen exactly? Anyway, to permit them to just take advantage of America. What does the United States of America get? Absolutely nothing. More trade, but I guess that's a losing proposition in Trump's world. Ontario won't even put U.S. spirits, beverages, and other alcoholic products on their shelves. What does that have to do with the bridge? And they absolutely prohibited from doing so. And now, on top of everything else, Prime Minister Carney wants to make a deal with China. What does that have to do with anything? Which will eat Canada alive. We'll just get the leftovers. Oh, so we're eating it alive, but we're worried that China will get a bigger chunk? I don't think so. The first thing China will do is terminate all, I can't even read it with a straight face. This is the funniest line any president has ever written, at least on Truth Social, probably anyway. This is the line. The first thing China will do once it eats Canada alive is terminate all ice hockey being played in Canada and permanently eliminate the Stanley Cup. I mean, and they accuse me of having Trump derangement syndrome? This guy is nuts. I mean, China is going to eliminate ice hockey in Canada because Canada and China are trading and will eliminate the Stanley Cup? How? How does this happen? What's the mechanism? Please explain. There must be somebody out there with Trump zombie syndrome who can justify this complete diversion into insanity that this guy is going through. You have to feel, mildly sorry for anybody who has a brain that can come up with these kind of stuff. Terminate all ice hockey. Well, that's a national tragedy. We should go to war with Canada to stop Chinese from eliminating ice hockey. Anyway, he goes on, the tariffs Canada charges us for our dairy products have for many years been unacceptably putting our farmers at great financial risk. BS. The tariffs they put on dairy is only on after a certain quantity, which gets in basically zero tariffs, and so that tariff is almost never charged because you actually never get to that quantity. But we have huge tariffs on their dairy products as well, so the whole thing is silly. And he could have negotiated it when he renegotiated NAFTA. He could have renegotiated the dairy product thing, and he didn't. So this is Trump's fault, if anybody's. I will not allow this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated for everything we have given them. And also, importantly, Canada treats the United States with fairness and respect that we deserve. How much fairness and respect do we, the United States, deserve, given President Trump's rants against Canada? Probably not a lot. He continues, we will start negotiations immediately with all that we have given them. We should own perhaps at least one half of this asset. The revenues generated because of the U.S. market will be astronomical. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, just to recap, Canada built the bridge, paid for it completely, has a toll on it, which will go to basically, compensate Canada for paying for building the bridge. The state of Michigan actually did not participate in building the bridge. However, the state of Michigan technically owns half the bridge. So it's not true that we don't own, the United States owns nothing. Michigan owns half the bridge. I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe one of you will explain to me in the super chat why I am terribly, terribly wrong and probably just suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. I don't think a trade deal between Canada and China is going to end ice hockey and eliminate the Stanley Cup. I could be wrong, but I'm probably not. Here's one of my Iran predictions. There will still be ice hockey and a Stanley Cup after Canada and China sign a whatever kind of trade deal they have in mind. Stunning. It's hard to believe that will happen. What else? Yes, they didn't use American products. I don't know if that's true, but what difference does it make? They paid for it. I don't think it falls under the Buy American Act, which is an un-American act, which is an anti-American act, which is make infrastructure in the United States super expensive for no reason. And maybe that's one of the many reasons why we don't build anything in this country, in the United States. God. Trump authorized this bridge in 2016 when they started building. It's taken enough time. The bridge is almost done. Trade is, I know I don't really have to remind you, but maybe I do. Who knows? The world is crazy. Trade is win-win. Both parties benefit from it. It's a way in which, wealth is cumulative. So a bridge that facilitates more trade, facilitates more wealth creation in the United States, facilitates the United States, people in the United States, individuals in the United States who choose to trade with Canada, it makes their lives better. Makes their lives better. Supposedly Connie called Trump and said, hey, we built the bridge, we paid for it, you didn't pay for it, I don't see what you're upset about, we kind of paid for it, so my guess is this will blow over. But this guy is, Trump is deranged. He's not there. If a Democratic president would have, if Biden would have published something like this, Republicans would be calling for his impeachment and talking about the fact that he was mentally incompetent. The bridge is actually, one of these. It's a pretty cool bridge. It looks like a nice bridge. It looks like it's almost complete. I'm looking at a photo of it. It's kind of cool. It cost $4.7 billion, Canadian dollars. So they paid for it again. Not Canadian dollars, American dollars. And they're going to get the tolls to do this. So, yeah, I don't know. The guy's nuts. I don't know if he can actually stop it. I guess he can. I guess there's some federal land or federal thing that has to happen. The customs office could close on the American side of it. But, yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah. Michael, I did not see Alexander Dugin's comments on Ayn Rand. If you want to give me a link here, link in the chat, that'd be great. I'd like to see that. But I'm not surprised, of course. Alexander Dugin would hate Ayn Rand. He's the antithesis of everything she stands for. He's the exact opposite. He's Stephen Bannon's favorite philosopher. Tucker Carlson loves him. So you can tell that not a friend of Ayn Rand. All right, so the bridge to maybe nowhere. Maybe after $4.7 billion of Canadian investment, the bridge will actually go nowhere, and there will be no bridge. I don't know. It will. I don't think they'll blow it up, but it'll just not open it. We have a president who is certifiable. And I think any sane political party, any legit political party, any political party that really cares about America, that has American interest, the interest of American citizens as individuals, as a primary, would be getting rid of this president because he's not competent to serve in the role. He does not have his wits about him, as they say. Somebody says it will be the California's high-speed rail project that doesn't exist. Yeah, the difference is the bridge does exist. So what a waste not to actually open it. All right, as we also know, President Trump is a big fan of the free market and of privatizing healthcare and of moving us towards greater and greater capitalism. I know some people out there think that Donald Trump is the greatest president ever, or one of the greatest, and is a huge champion of liberty and free markets. Well, to illustrate this, the government, I will note, has now opened something like TrumpRx, which reminds me, this guy's not, I mean, he likes his name on everything. Supposedly he was withholding funds because he wanted to rename a tunnel and a federal building after himself, and he wasn't going to pay New York money unless they renamed everything Trump. Again, not competent to serve as president. Anyway, the government has launched a drug buying site. You can buy drugs, the legal kind. Don't get all excited, the legal kind, at TrumpRx. They have started with 40 different medications, primarily obesity drugs and infertility treatments, available on the site. What is going on here? All right, there we go. Including, Novo Nordisk's Wegovy and Eli Lilly Zepbound. These are the obesity drugs, and you've also got the infertility treatments, such as infertility treatments. No need to name the drugs. The prices are going to be significantly lower than their sticker price. But let me tell you something about sticker prices in healthcare. They don't mean anything. Nobody pays the sticker price, ever. Indeed, sticker prices are just there so that pharmaceuticals then negotiate discounts with insurance companies and with pharmaceutical payment systems and everything else. So, in spite of the fact that Trump says we're going to save a lot of money and be healthy, you're going to save tremendous amount of money. Nobody's actually going to save any money. The reality is that almost all Americans have health insurance. If you have health insurance, it makes no sense to go to TrumpRx to get your drugs. Health insurance companies will pay for most drugs. I guess if you're trying to get the obesity drug without going through a doctor, or without the insurance covering it because you don't really have a condition for it, then maybe you want to buy it directly. But then you're not going to go here. You're going to go to some of the compounding pharmacies and get it much cheaper from a compounding pharmacy. You're not going to get it from TrumpRx. So if you're insured, drugs cost very, very little, right? That's the whole secret, the whole thing that nobody talks about. I mean, as a consumer, I take if for example, I know, do you know how much statins cost if you go to a pharmacy and get a statin? Nothing. I mean, like $3 or something for a bottle. It's nothing. Why? Because insurance covers it. And it's cheap anyway because there's massive competition. So none of this is relevant. So, 27 million Americans who are uninsured, could benefit here. But it's a very small percentage of Americans. And there are many other alternatives. So it just doesn't necessarily make any sense. Now, again, if you look at the list prices, it looks like these drugs are much cheaper on the website, on their TrumpRx, but nobody sells the drug at the list price. Nobody sells it at list price. You know how you go to CVS and Walgreens or something, and do you have a discount code? And if you don't, they'll give you one. They'll give you a discount. Here's the coupon. Here's a coupon you can use. Oh, here's the website where you can get the coupon on your phone. And then you go and you get the coupon, and the coupon's like 90% off. It's like some ridiculous amount, and the drug is cheap. So, yeah, I mean, this is just government intervention. It's a make you feel good. GoodRx is one of the places where you can get these coupons for drugs. It's just it's going to have Trump's name on it, so it's the best, greatest, most wonderful drug delivery system in the world. And cheapest. Gonna make so much. Anyway, this is part of the government's effort to try to strong arm pharmaceutical companies into offering lower prices, including part of this, you can't sell drugs in America more expensive than you do to the cheapest country you're selling it out there. All strong arm tactics, no market, no capitalism, more government involvement. The government now owns companies. It now sells drugs. I mean, why do we even have banks? Why doesn't the Treasury just open its own bank? Why do we have Apple? I mean, phones are way too expensive. The government could probably produce them better and cheaper and lower cost of living. And eggs, I mean, I don't know why we have to buy private eggs. Private eggs, we buy eggs from private companies. I mean, if we want to socialize healthcare, why not socialize food? Maybe we'd get it as cheaply as Venezuela gets their food. They have socialized food. Okay, so they don't have a lot, and there's no variety, and there's a lot of choice, but it's cheap. So maybe our food should be cheap too. It's so cheap, there's often no food on the counter. So for those of you thinking that Trump has saved us from socialists, Trump has saved us from a communist takeover. We're about to be taken over by communists, and Trump came in and has saved us. Well, then you get TrumpRx, and you go, looks like socialized medicine to me. Just a little step, but it looks like commie to me. Looks like socialism to me. Who did he exactly save us from? Yeah, just fantasy. Well, not fantasy, self-delusion. Anybody who think we were saved by Trump from anything meaningful. Okay, let's turn to something positive the Trump administration is doing. They do some stuff that is positive. The administration has announced, basically, you've got the head of the EPA has announced that it is reversing the 2009, quote, endangerment finding. This is a finding that was done under Obama, under his EPA, that concluded that 6 greenhouse gases pose a threat to public health and welfare. Now, the significance of this finding was that according to their interpretation of it, and the courts, I think, have validated this, that once these 6 gases have been found to be a threat to public health and welfare on the basis of them creating a hazard with climate change, on that basis, the EPA could then regulate them without Congress actually passing a bill that designated these gases as worthy regulation. So it got around Congress, and it facilitated the EPA from setting all kinds of guidelines for emissions, from automobiles to factories to power plants to all kinds of industries that now have to abide by the Clean Air Act, the Clean Air Act did not have these specific 6 greenhouse gases listed. This added them to the Clean Air Act, and now made it possible for the EPA to increase regulations dramatically. According to EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, quote, "This amounts to the largest act of deregulation in the history of the United States." I don't know if that is true, but it's big. It's going to save billions and billions of dollars for companies that don't have to abide by these regulations. It's going to save a lot of time to build, to construct, to make. It's going to reduce the burden for anywhere from automakers to a whole slew of industries. Now, the final rule that undoes the endangerment finding will be made public later this week, but it's going to remove regulatory requirements to measure, report, certify, and comply with federal greenhouse emission standards for motor vehicles. Now, think about that. Measure, report, certify, and comply. Each one of those is money and massive quantities of time. Each one of those 4. So you're getting rid of both the money and the time. Increased efficiency, increasing productivity. And it also repeals associated compliance programs, credit provisions, reporting obligations for industries. So again, massive savings in time, complexity, and in money, indirectly in money. Now, initially, it won't apply to rules governing emissions from power plants and other stationary sources, such as oil and gas facilities. But repealing the findings could open up the door for these regulations to be rolled back in the future over these facilities. Now, the reason I hesitate to call it the largest act of deregulation is that it's not law. You can imagine a future leftist administration saying, we're going to reimpose the endangerment finding. Now, it would take them a year, just like it's taken this administration a year to undo it. And it will take them, it's a bureaucratic headache, and it will take time and effort and so on. And maybe it'll take 2 years, but it could all be returned. Imagine, here's real deregulation. Imagine basically removing the Clean Air Act completely. Now, to reimpose it, you would have to get 60 votes to vote for a new Clean Air Act. So imagine getting rid of it completely. That's the kind of deregulation that happened in the 1970s. It happened through legislation, which made it almost impossible, not impossible, but almost impossible, very difficult to reverse. Unfortunately, whatever's done at the administrative agency level is easy to reverse. Imagine, I know this is like science fiction, but imagine getting rid of the EPA or getting rid of any regulatory agency completely through legislation. Then you'd have to recreate it. It's just not going to happen. That's the way you do it. But it's absolutely the case that this is a good step. It's possible that by the time Democrats get back into office, climate change will be dismissed by most American people. It's already on its way there. And it'll be very difficult for them to reestablish this. There'll be a lot of political pressure not to do it. Now, it is a challenge for companies who now are invested in the process and the equipment and everything to keep their emissions low. If they remove it and it gets reversed by a Democratic administration, they have to reinstall it. I don't know how expensive that is. The more you can give companies a long-term perspective, a long-term vision, long-term certainty, the better. But again, better than nothing. You got to roll these things down. And these are some of the most important, I think, achievements of this administration, is to be able to roll back some of the regulations. Now, all of this is going to be taken to court. But while it's in court, what the administration can do is simply decline to enforce the rules and fines while the legal process unfolds. So, the rollback will still be in effect unless the court rules against the administration. Expect a lot of lawsuits. But this is a positive sign moving us towards more freedom for industry, particularly in regard to emissions. The other thing that it appears the Trump administration is about to do, this will be on Wednesday in the White House, Zeldin Energy Secretary Chris Wright are going to announce a new executive order that directs the Defense Department to enter into agreements to buy electricity from coal-fired power plants. Now, I'm not sure why this makes sense. Why not buy the cheapest electricity from whatever source it is? But this is an attempt by the administration to resurrect the coal business and coal power plants. Again, it could be reversed by a Democratic administration. So, difficult to see a lot of capital being invested in this. The administration will also award funding, this is from the Wall Street Journal, the 5 coal plants in West Virginia, Ohio, North Carolina, and Kentucky to recommission and upgrade the facilities. Trump is going to be awarded, not the Nobel Peace Prize. He will be awarded the inaugural undisputed champion of coal. Maybe Alex Epstein should get the second award. Maybe he should have gotten the first. He will be getting that award from the Washington Coal Club. So yes, the Defense Department will start buying coal energy from coal, this is the kind of energy deregulation, shift away from so-called renewable to or really unreliable source of energy and back to fossil fuels. And most of this, by the way, is, I don't think any of this could have really happened and embraced so easily by this administration without the work of Alex Epstein. So Alex gets a lot of credit for the deregulation happening. His influence on Chris Wright, on Lee Zeldin, on the Interior Secretary, he's had an impact on all these people, and he's had an impact on the kind of intellectual vibe out there around climate change and fossil fuels. And when you read some of the comments from Zeldin and from Wright and so on, it sounds like Alex. It sounds like they're using his blueprint. They're using his talking points. Remember, he is a sponsor of the show. Check him out, alexepstein.substack.com, alexepstein.substack.com, where you can get the talking points too, not just the people in the administration. Once in a while, I actually report, in spite of my, TDS, on positive things the Trump administration does. I don't think they outweigh the negatives, but all right, I'll take them. Take the positives where you can find them. In a world that doesn't have many positives, I will take them. Did Michael post a link to what Dugan said? I don't see a link in the chat. All right, that's too bad. I want to see if I can pull it up and just look at it. Maybe it's in writing. All right. So today, lawyers are going to make opening arguments, or did actually yesterday. So yesterday, lawyers made opening arguments in a major social media trial that is going on. I think this is in Arizona, no, this one may be in LA. Anyway, this is in LA. So this is a case where social media is being sued by a young woman who is now 20 years old. And she is arguing that Instagram and YouTube basically made her an addict. That their addictive features harmed her mental health, and she is demanding compensation for that. The plaintiff and her mother are accusing tech companies of intentionally creating addictive platforms that caused her to develop anxiety, body dysphoria, and suicidal thoughts. Now, this is being watched carefully because there are 1,500 additional All right, thanks for sending me the Dugan quote. We'll get to that. So, thank you, Miroslav. Miroslav sent it to me. I appreciate Miroslav. There are 1,500 lawsuits claiming social media, including Meta, YouTube, TikTok, Snap, have caused people to get addicted. In this particular case, Snap and TikTok settled with the plaintiff, which does not bode well for them for the other 1,500 lawsuits that are still waiting down the road. All right, so opening statements in LA trial, started yesterday. 18 jury members have already been chosen as of Friday. Opening arguments were made on Monday. And you can expect the head of, you can expect Mark Zuckerberg to testify, as will the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri. I'm not sure who's going to represent YouTube in the testimony. I mean, I'm worried that some of you are going to sue YBS because I know some of you are clearly addicted to YBS. The reality is that it is fairly addictive. I don't know if you've ever found yourself like going through the short videos on YouTube, on Facebook, and just scrolling up, watching them. It's the same addiction as chocolate is addictive. And, anything good is addictive. Sex is addictive. Anything pleasurable, anything positive is addictive, they say. But that's, and ugly things, disturbing things, I guess disturbing things can be addictive. But badly made stuff is not addictive. Who wants badly made stuff? Netflix is addictive. You go from series to series to series, you binge watch. I mean, all of that assumes that you are mindless apes determined by your genes to follow your emotions without any control over yourself. Now, it's true, children have less control. Guess who's responsible for helping them discover their control, for helping them not get suckered in to things that are destructive? Well, parents, that's part of the job of parenting. Teach your kids to think long-term, to consider consequences, maybe even ban certain products, take away the phone, take away the social media. We weren't connected to television for years, until we got, what do you call those things where you could record television? And then television was still banned in our house, except for specific recorded shows that were okay to watch. Parenting. Unbelievable. So, if kids are committing suicide and have real problems, mental health problems, blame Meta. Don't blame the parents, and don't blame the kids themselves. Blame Meta. Don't blame the schools. But here's an interesting article, though. Thank you to Samantha Watkins for pointing this out. There's an article out there that claims, and makes the argument, that a vast array of data suggests that school, not social media, is the biggest modern threat to the mental health of children. Not social media, it's actually going to school. For example, youth suicide rates correlate with school year calendar. But COVID provided this amazing experiment where kids didn't go to school. And what happened to suicide rates? They plummeted. When schools closed, suicide rates went way down. When they went back to in-person school, back up they went. So the real enemy of children are most schools. Now, if you ask teenagers, what is the source of poor mental health? Teens report that it's school, not social media. Right? And school stress has, if anything, increased. In 2009, 43% of teens said it was school. In 2013, 83% of teens. I don't know what the data is as of now. Now, people think, oh, body image. I mean, it's one thing, body image on Instagram, but imagine body image where you actually have to show up in front of your peers in school and be made fun of, or not. So, yeah, there's plenty of evidence that our problem is not social media. But we're going to sue, and it's going to go, and you know, it's going to go, and Mark Zuckerberg is going to go up there, and he's a billionaire. Nobody's going to have any sympathy or believe any word he says. And a jury will rule that, yes, it's all a problem with social media. Right. Here's a quote from an article about this. If we're searching for mental health bogeymen, then we adults should follow our own advice. Look up from the phone and stop paying attention to the classroom, and I would add, to your kids. What before 2012, this quote has, children were still committing suicide in the fall. Fundamentally, school is not what kids have evolved to do. They're supposed to play freely. We're going to put that aside, how school should be constructed. But yeah, it's not a healthy place the way it is today. Not a healthy place. But let's blame Meta. I mean, what are you going to do? Sue the school district? How much money are you going to get? 5 cents? We can squeeze Mark Zuckerberg for a lot more than that. In addition to the lawsuits about mental health and addiction, there was another lawsuit also against Meta, this one in New Mexico, which alleged that Meta failed to safeguard apps like Facebook and Instagram from online predators who targeted child users. This one claims that Meta, quote, steered and connected users, including children, to sexually explicit, exploitative, and child sex abuse materials and facilitated human trafficking. Allow me to be skeptical. It's not like Meta wants to traffic children. If that happened, there's no intent going on there. It's complete nonsense. I mean, this is I think the lawyer, this is what he said in an interview on CNBC. What we are really alleging is that Meta has created a dangerous product, a product that enables not only the targeting of children, but the exploitation of children in virtual spaces and in the real world. Let's sue the telephone companies. Let's sue the internet. Let's sue camera makers. God. Parents, wake up. Child predators can use the internet to contact your kids. Pay attention. Get off your phones. Stop being addicted. I mean, I'm sure there's some horrible cases with children were exploited, and social media was the means. But you can't blame the social media. If somebody attacks you in a park, you don't blame the park. Anyway, you're going to see hundreds of these lawsuits unless they're shut down early. Let's hope that Meta wins these lawsuits and that lawyers walk away. I'm sure all the lawyers represented the plaintiffs on contingency fees. They assume they can get hundreds of millions of dollars from these lawsuits, and they get a piece of that. But if they lose, then a lot of these cases will go away. But we live in an overly litigious society where these should not even make it to the courtroom. A judge should say, there's no there. There's no legitimacy. There's no gross negligence here. There's no liability. Meta didn't abuse your child. A sex offender did. Go after him. You cannot be addicted. You don't get addicted to stuff that is not injected into your veins and literally causes you physical harm. I mean, heroin is addictive. How do we know heroin's addictive? Because when you take somebody who's taken a lot of heroin and you take them off the heroin, see what their body does. It freaks out. It's an unbelievable pain. It's really hard to get off of the addiction. Take a kid's phone away. Maybe they don't speak to you for a day or two, but nothing physical is going to happen to them. Nothing. Not addictive. Sorry. We need to come up with a different term of something that's really entertaining and therefore really easy as for us to overconsume. Like chocolate and donuts and, I don't know, cookies and yeah, short videos. Crazy stuff. I mean, it's a sick culture that it can't see that people have free will and can control themselves, and that the courts are now serving as a replacement for parenting. And Meta is supposed to be your parent instead of the court system. All right, one other internet company, that is not being sued because they're taking proactive action because the government has basically said, we're coming after you if you don't, is Discord. As of next month, Discord, and I know we have a Discord server that Miroslav runs. As of next month, Discord is rolling out age verification globally. All users will be put into a teen-appropriate experience by default. Only users verified as adults will be able to change certain settings and access age-restricted content, which I think includes certain political conspiracy theory stuff. This is from the company. For most adults, age verification won't be required, as Discord's age inference model uses account information, such as account tenure, device and activity data, and aggregate high-level patterns across Discord communities. Discord does not use private messages or any message content in this process. Some Discord users will need to be confirmed as adults in order to unblur sensitive content or turn off the setting. Only adults will be able to access age-restricted channel servers and app commands. Additionally, messages from people a user may not know are routed to a separate inbox by default, and only verified adults can modify this setting. By the way, Miroslav has put up the Yaron Brook show Discord server in the chat. So you can find it in the chat. So yeah, Discord is doing proactive. Again, I don't know how necessary this is. I don't know if this is good or bad. It doesn't seem to be too invasive, so I don't think it's horrible. But the fact that Discord, for example, is blamed for the actions of maniacs, like it's blamed for Charlie Cook's death because supposedly the guy who killed him was, I'm not sure I'm supposed to call him a guy. Anyway, was radicalized on Discord, and therefore, again, you don't have free will. You can't decide for yourself if you're, I guess, young. I don't know what age counts as young. I don't know if 18 is some magic switch that suddenly you won't be radicalized. But yes, I mean, the idea is that Discord is responsible for the radicalization of young people, and therefore we should protect young people from Discord. This will happen starting in March. So those of you who use Discord, pay note. All right, this is a kind of fun item. You know how SpaceX has for years now said that they were going to Mars, and indeed, you know, at some point it seemed like we would already be there. So in 2016, Elon Musk said that he thought a landing could be achieved by 2018. That was a long time ago. He later pushed the potential landing on Mars to 2022. Then Musk changed again, indicating it would be 2025. That in 2025, it was aiming to launch 5 unscrewed Starships to Mars, and they would be loaded with robots made by Tesla. Now, 2026 is considered an optimal year because Earth and Mars are relatively close to one another. This happens every, I think, 2 years. 2026, it would cut the journey by 6 months, but Starship is not ready. It's been much more difficult to produce and to create Starship than Musk projected. The rocket experiencing catastrophic failures across multiple test flights in recent years. SpaceX, is doing that, but it's also committed to building a Starship-based crewed lunar landing as part of NASA's Artemis 3. That has also been pushed out to the soonest would be 2028, would be NASA landing on the moon. Musk is also merging SpaceX with xAI, his artificial intelligence company. There's also rumors about making it public. So therefore, revenue becomes really, really important. So the emphasis shifts from Mars to, satellite communication, and the satellites he puts out there, potentially putting up a million orbital data center. So some kind of data center that combines. I don't know if the physics works or not. Don't tell me it doesn't work. We'll let Musk figure it out. But yes, the whole idea is to manufacture. Is to be able to do data centers in space. That is revenue. And Musk seems to be emphasizing that. So now Musk has announced that X is going to prioritize establishing a self-growing city on the moon, and that he's pushing out settling Mars for at least a decade and maybe 2. Right? In a post on social media, Musk wrote that a lunar city could be built within the next decade. And he wrote, quote, "The mission of SpaceX remains the same. Extend consciousness of life as we know it to the stars." So, so it looks like, together with the Artemis project, which is a NASA-based project to put astronauts on the moon, Musk will also be, I guess, building around that the capacity to build a city on the moon and to start moving people to colonize a city on the moon within the next decade. Now, this is a relatively crowded space as compared to Mars. Blue Origin has from the beginning targeted the moon as a place where it wants to get to first. It's developing the Blue Moon lunar lander and other lunar logistic systems. so that they can deliver cargo and infrastructure to the moon. A company called iSpace Inc., which is a Japanese commercial company, is developing lunar robots. It's developing a lunar lander, rovers, and has a stated vision of supporting lunar transport infrastructure and resource development. It has an explicit long-term goal of enabling a commercial lunar economy with potentially human presence on the moon. And Firefly Aerospace, another U.S. space company, operates something called the Blue Ghost lunar lander, which successfully soft landed on the moon as part of building logistics and surface operations needed for sustained presence. So they also have ambitions with regard to lunar presence. There's also a number of other companies building supporting technologies for lunar stuff. And there are a number of emerging moon colony initiatives. One by the Italian Space Agency with a company called Thales, Alinea Space, and another one by a company called Novell Hospitality, which imagines hotels on the moon. So it's a tourism startup. So the moon is going to be pretty crowded in a couple of decades if all of this actually happens. So yeah, we're going to the moon, guys. Maybe not to Mars. I'm not sure when Mars will happen, but the moon is right there. It's soon. There'll be a big board, big. Do you ever read the short story, The Man Who Sold the Moon? The Man Who Sold the Moon. Check it out. The Man Who Sold the Moon by Robert Heinlein is a fun short story about how you're not going to be in Mars in 5 to 7 years. There's no way that's happening. I mean, maybe he'll send a rocket there, but you're not going to have a human being landing on Mars in 5 to 7 years. I don't think. What do I know? But I don't think. Come back to me. And Z-Racer in 5 to 7 years, and we'll check whose prediction was right. Let's see. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. The Man Who Sold the Moon is a great short story. I encourage you to read it. It really is a exposition about how you could make space travel private. What would be the basis of it? I think at the end of it, the moon has a massive billboard, with Coca-Cola on it. Like, whoever went to the moon sold the rights to advertise to Coca-Cola and has a big billboard on the moon. That would be cool. Imagine the moon with Coca-Cola on it. All right, back to Earth. Oh, by the way, Super Chat. This show, depends on you guys supporting it. We'll support it. Support it. And now's not the time to break your Yaron Brook show habit. Nope. It's never the time to break your Yaron Brook show habit. Really, addiction is healthy for you. Some things to be addicted to is healthy, right? So this is one of them. And Super Chat, you should be addicted to Super Chats. Addicted to Super Chats. Michael, for example, right now, all the $20 questions are from Michael. Like, are you really going to let Michael be all alone in that $20 category? No, Michael's not going to be happy with that. You got to join him with 50 or 100 or more 20s or whatever it is. So join Michael in supporting the Yaron Brook show. Otherwise, it'll become a Yaron and Michael show. All right, back to Earth and to Russia. So, Trump keeps saying peace between Ukraine and Russia. And Zelensky, I think a couple of days ago said Trump wants a deal by June because he wants to be able to tout it for the midterms. Ukraine supposedly has compromised on a bunch of different issues. Anyway, yesterday there was an interview with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. That was quite revealing and I think should piss Donald Trump off quite a bit, which I'm all for. I'm reading from the news story. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov explicitly blamed the United States on February 9th for lack of progress in ending Russia's war against Ukraine. It's America's fault, not the Russians. It never was the Russians' fault. The Russians can do no wrong. Lavrov and Trump agree about that. Lavrov used a interview with TV BRICS, a Russian outlet covering BRICS states and candidate states, to accuse the United States of reneging on the peace proposals the United States itself allegedly proposed at the August 2025 U.S.-Russia Alaska summit by imposing new sanctions on Russia, seizing Russian shadow fleet tankers, and placing secondary tariffs on imports of Russian oil. Lavrov claimed that the United States and Russia seemingly resolved the war at the Alaska summit and moved towards broad and mutually beneficial collaboration. But the United States has since created artificial barriers to cooperation. Kremlin spokesman similarly claimed on February 9th that the United States and Russia reached a number of understandings in Alaska, which he claimed could lead to a breakthrough in peace negotiations. The Kremlin has been exploiting, anyway, there's no documentation of the Alaska summit. There's nothing, right? And it didn't look like the Alaska summit came out with a big understanding, although they were scheduled to meet again in Budapest, a week later, and Trump canceled because it was clear that whatever they agreed to in Alaska was inconsistent with American interests. I mean, basically, whenever they meet, Putin bullies Trump. I mean, Trump's a bully who gets bullied by Putin. According to Russians in the Alaska summit, it agreed to principles based on Putin's June 2024 speech to the Russian military, to the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in which he insisted on capitulation of Russia's original war demands on behalf of both Ukraine and NATO. And Putin has been consistent. Lavrov reiterated Russia's demand for effective control over Ukraine post-war. Russia wants to run the Ukrainian government. That's been obvious from day one. And the size and composition of Ukraine's military. Lavrov stated that he has no doubt that Russia will prevent the deployment of any weapons that threaten Russia on Ukrainian territory in order to ensure Russia's security. The Kremlin has long demanded Ukraine's demilitarization to prevent Ukraine from being able to defend itself. Lavrov's statement demonstrates that Russia wants to dictate not only the number of troops in Ukraine's post-war military, but also the weapons and equipment in the Ukrainians' arsenal. Right? So, look, Russia's not giving up on anything. The United States is forcing Ukraine to compromise. Russia will not compromise, period. Period. So, it's all just if Trump doesn't want to support Ukraine, fine, just stop the charade. Stop pretending that the Russians are the good guys. Stop giving them everything that they want. Lavrov still continues to demonstrate that Russia's territorial demands go beyond Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson oblasts. He said Russia must ensure its security in the face of alleged European threat to unleash war against Russia. So nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Russian State Duma, this is like the parliament, explicitly demands that the United States, or deputies there, demand that the United States concede to all of Russia's demands. So, nothing has moved with all the great negotiator skills, with all the art of a deal that Trump and Witkoff claim to have, all their abilities. Basically, Putin continues to play them completely, and hasn't given in a fragment of an inch, never mind an inch, hasn't given in anything. Nada, zero. All right, that is the news for this February 10th, 2026. Hard to believe. Hard to believe. All right. Quick reminders. This show is supported through you guys over there, out there. Whether you're listening live or not live. If you're not live, please consider becoming a Patreon donor, a supporter over Patreon. Patreon.com. Just search Yaron Brook Show and become a monthly supporter of the show. I love the monthly supporters because it's predictable and you know exactly what's coming in, and we can plan the show out into the future based on that. Those of you live can use the stickers. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Exit. Thank you. I saw some more stickers. Bum, 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 bum. All right, scrolling up to look for the stickers. Thank you, Jesh. Yeah, thanks for the stickers. There are many, many more of you watching, so jump in with a sticker. It's a way to support the show, trade value for value, all of that, right? Patreon is great. Sign up for Patreon. Of course, the best way if you're live to support the show, and if you're not on the YouTube platform, you can come over to the YouTube platform to participate. You can use the super chat to ask questions, to make comments, and to trade with me, to support the show, to make it possible for the show to continue. Yeah, this is made possible because you buy out my time from doing other things to doing this. This is my income. All right, reminders that sponsors of the show include the Ayn Rand Institute. We've got a conference coming up in Porto. The conference in Porto, it used to come, whether you live in Europe or the United States. Porto is a great city. Portugal is a fantastic place. It's good food, relatively cheap. And you can get there fairly easily from all over Europe using primarily Ryanair. You get there from the United States, either through Lisbon. There might be a few direct flights. But yeah, it'll be the weekend of, I think, April 18th. And I will be speaking Tal, Tzfani, and Onkalgate. We're going to put together an exciting program for you. It's going to be changed. We're going to amp it up a little bit and make it more fun. And so join us. Join us at the conference and check it out. AynRand.org/start here. AynRand.org/start here. If you're a student, if you're not a student, under 34, you can apply for a scholarship. Where are all the Portuguese people? Why aren't you all applying for scholarships? Apply for scholarship. And if you're over 34, then you can get you can use the discount code 26YBS10. 26YBS10. So come and join us in Porto. I know it's kind of at the edge of Europe for you Europeans, but it's not that far. And the flights are not that expensive. So you should make the effort and come. That's my view. Alex Epstein. We talked about Alex. Check him out. alexepstein.substack.com. Defenders of Capitalism. Somebody asked me about Defenders of Capitalism. Just go defendersofcapitalism.com. Easy. Defendersofcapitalism.com. And you'll see what's available and get involved. And yeah, it's all on the website. Michael Williams, and he's the principal. We both teach Defenders of Capitalism at LPR. And Hendershot Wealth, Hendershot with two T's, Hendershot Wealth, one word, .com/YBS. A variety of different investment products, including a product that can really save you a lot of money in capital gains taxes. You can check out that product at the link, but also in an interview I did with Robert on my YouTube channel under playlists for sponsors playlist, and you can find it right there. All right, let us jump in. We have hourly targets. We're way short of the first hour target, never mind the second hour target, and we're already in the second hour. Time is money. 1 hour on the Yaron Brook Show is $250. 2 hours is $500. Let's make the $250 at least. Let's do that. Just whatever you can pitch in would be appreciated. Michael, by abolish ICE, the left certainly don't mean to abolish immigration regulation. They mean to have it, but not enforce it, to go back to the old system. Yeah, maybe. I mean, if you let the Democrats write new immigration regulation, they would probably de-emphasize work and emphasize things like family reunification and stuff like that. So they are likely to work to legalize some immigrants, but not the ones that I value, the ones that actually do work, because the reality is that a big chunk of the Democratic Party is influenced by the unions, and the unions generally are anti-immigration. So they have no solution. They know what's wrong. ICE is wrong. They have no solution. Not really. That's what Michael is pointing out. Michael also asks, a friend of mine keeps insisting Epstein files will take down the system. Am I missing the seriousness of this, or is it a science fiction fantasy? Well, it's certainly a science fiction fantasy, because even if you're missing something, it's not that big. And even if it was big, it's unlikely to take down the system. The system's pretty robust. The system is pretty well established. And not everybody's connected to Epstein. Some people are connected to Epstein, but not everybody's connected to him. So it'll take down, let's say it's much worse than we think it is. It'll take down pieces of the system. It won't take down the system. There's no way that can happen. But it is serious. It's just, it's serious in terms of your estimation of the culture and of particularly elite culture, and educated elite culture where you think they know better. And the fact that it's apolitical, you got Noam Chomsky there and Bannon, and you've actually got some photos in Jeffrey Epstein's office of Bannon and Chomsky kind of having a good time. So the relationships are there. But again, we're not talking about a system. We're not talking about thousands of people committing heinous crimes. There's zero evidence of a child, sex ring. There is evidence of people having a relationship with a sleazy, horrible human being. Some of them engaging in sex, but we don't, with some of the women he had, but we don't know if any of that sex was coerced, and we don't know if some of that sex was with minors. We know Epstein had sex with minors. We don't know about anybody else. So there's just not enough there to bring down anything at this point, never mind the system as a whole. Okay, Michael says, another critique I get is, why do you assume uber rich people have morals and are so virtuous? How can you be so dogmatic in your assertion that there's no benefit in screwing people over? Well, I mean, I'm not dogmatic about that. There certainly could be benefit of screwing people over in a non-market economy. If you can screw people over and then run to the government and get bailed out, or run to the government and get protection, then it's possible to screw people over and not suffer the consequences. But if you understand how a marketplace works, if you screw over your customers, they'll stop being your customers. And therefore, your revenues will suffer. And therefore, it's hard for you to sustain the business. Now, does that mean uber rich people have, a moral in every aspect of their life? No, but the system encourages moral behavior and encourages behavior that reduces screwing people over. Now, a lot of these rich guys, could be dishonest in their private life, as we see them cheating on their wives. It could be dishonest in various aspects of their life. But in the marketplace, that dishonesty comes back to bite them. It does in real life as well, right? But in the marketplace, they're disciplined. In the real life, they're not. So their wives divorce them, or they divorce their wives. They're unhappy because they don't have a fulfilled life. So there's a cost to pay for immorality. The marketplace makes you pay it with your business, and therefore regulates you towards positive behavior. Jack, thank you for the sticker. And Leon, thank you for the sticker. Appreciate it. Silvanos, $50. Thank you, Silvanos. The moon is the single most viewed and valued satellite in the sky. I can think of several media that address ads on the moon, from billboards to entire reshaping. Doesn't the moon deserve to be left unblemished for future generations to enjoy? What exactly joy do you get from the moon? And how do we know that we can enhance that pleasure by, I don't know, putting a Coca-Cola sign on there? That would be cool. No, the moon should be privatized. The moon should, private enterprise should be the way to do this is to say anybody on land in the moon can basically, build a fence. And if you, around a particular part of it, and if you land up using that part of it, mixing your sweat, your mind with the soil of the moon, it's yours. It's yours internationally. It's not belonging to China. It's not belonging to anybody. It's private property of the people on the moon. And ultimately, the people on the moon, it should be a homesteading act. Exactly, homesteading. That's good. Homesteading act for the moon. And then people on the moon will create their own government. The moon is a harsh mistress, is another example of this, right? But also Robert Heinlein. So, there's nature as it is. There's some beauty to it, but it only gets more beautiful as human beings use it, exploit it, to make human life better, longer, more prosperous. You can show your great-great-great-grandchildren pictures of the moon the way it was before human beings exploited it. I'm all for exploitation of nature for the benefit of human beings. And the way to do that is through homesteading, through private property. Again, Moon is a harsh mistress. Robert Heinlein, there's actually a Randian character in it, explicitly Randian. And the second is The Man Who Sold the Moon. They're two cool books by the same author. Olia. All right. Musk has a history of masterfully using business judgment rules, legal refuge, to knowingly lie about timelines to boost the stock price of the company and raise money at higher valuations. I mean, he's been accused of that, and I know of at least a couple of cases where it really does appear that he did that. And it's pretty horrible that he does that and gets away with it. The only people who could really discipline him on that are shareholders. But on the other hand, he delivers their value, or they at least think he delivers values in other ways. But yes, his predictions are often way over the moon optimistic. Over the moon optimistic. So we will see if there's any basis for the shift in strategy towards the moon and whether he can live up to it. To be determined. Lucinda, first day of school, a teacher told me I wrote like an alcoholic. What? Most of my teachers ranged between incompetent and malicious. Often skipped school to study on my own. Sad because I was very excited to start school as a kid. Yeah, I mean, that's right. And this is why school is so damaging to human beings. To thinking human beings, I should add. To thinking, to thought. So yes, super sad that school becomes such a burden and such such a distraction from actually learning. So, sorry your first days in school were like that. I don't think I was ever excited by going to school. So I didn't like school from the moment I remember school. Not that I remember much, but what I remember I don't like. John, 3-part question. Tyra Banks was forced to rename her dessert hot ice cream because the FDA says words like ice cream guarantee a specific product. Nutrition labels already disclose ingredients, but that isn't enough. The FDA argues consumers can't be expected to read labels due to information costs. So it enforces standards of identity. So he asks, is preventing voluntary buyer judgment a proper role of government? If a restaurant can serve a dish called hot ice cream with a clear description, why can't packaged food do the same? Isn't the arbitrary regulation and government overreach? Absolutely, it's completely insane. A company should be able to, as long as they're not committing fraud, and you'd have to really be careful on how you define fraud for something like this. It's none of government's business how people call their food. Consumers might not like the fact that they expect one thing and get something else. Again, and that's market discipline. So no, government has no business, because remember, the role of government is not to protect us to protect us from bad judgment. The role of government is to protect us from violations of our rights, right infringing behavior. And nothing you describe here involves rights infringing behavior. Indeed, the government, by forcing companies to put on descriptive labels, are violating the company's rights and the consumer's rights, because it makes the product more expensive. And consumers, if they wanted it, they could ask for it. But government has no business forcing companies to disclose. That would be the job of consumers. Justin, is it moral to block streets, thereby infringing other people's individual rights when protesting a government policy that infringes on rights? Well, I think it can be, while recognizing that you're doing that, trying to minimize it, and accepting the consequences, which you might land up in jail. So it can be, if it's an emergency, if the issue is serious enough, and if you've exhausted other means by which to, make your voice heard. So certainly it's moral in Iran, right? Because the regime is violating everybody's rights. But once you get to a regime that's violating rights in scale, ICE, Jim Crow laws, then I think it is moral to do these demonstrations. But again, you should think about the consequences and think about the fact that you're disrupting other people's lives. Michael, Greg had a good point that the alternative isn't Nazi Germany or nothing. If we transfigure into Putin's Russia, it would still be horrifying. Yes, absolutely. I've been saying that for years now, and to those of you who think we're heading towards Nazi Germany, we're not. These people specifically are not Nazis. But it's still going to be bad when they take over. Equal to reality. It's my birthday, and I thought I would spend the last hours of it watching YBS. Thank you, and happy birthday. I'm not going to sing you happy birthday because I can't sing. I can't sing, and it would be painful to your ears. All right. Michael says, did you see Dugin's horrific comments on Ayn Rand today? I did now. Thank you, Miroslav. So there's a post by Students for Liberty with a quote from Ayn Rand that says, you can avoid reality, but you cannot avoid the consequences of avoiding reality. Now, Dugin, who, by the way, doesn't believe in reality, certainly not objective reality or any kind of reality, this worldly reality, writes on Twitter, Ayn Rand is an exemplar of Epstein kind entity, pure reptile in any sense, physically and morally. This from I can't use reptile because he's already used it, but from a dark age mentality and a look, that long beard, and, he's got glasses. I guess they didn't have glasses in the Dark Ages. But an authoritarian, mystic, postmodern. He combines all the worst in philosophy, in political science, from the left and the right, to come up with a disgusting, Dark Ages, regressive ideology that has led to more than 1.2 million Russians killed or injured on the battlefield, and is destroying any sense of liberty and freedom in Russia. But of course, he doesn't care about liberty or freedom. That is not a standard. But he is one of the worst living intellectuals in the world, maybe the worst. Somebody admired by many intellectuals on the American right. Just horrific. I mean, he doesn't understand Ayn Rand, and he couldn't, because his whole mystical framework rejects that. Roland says, my name is Roland, and I'm a YBS-aholic. YBS-aholic. I like that, YBS-aholic. We should run YBS-aholic meetups. Cobb says, please have Jason Rines on soon. He was great. Yeah, I definitely have Jason on. He's on the list for the months to come. Yes. Jamie, what death rate and or level of contagiousness would a disease need to have to justify government lockdowns and forced vaccination? Well, it would have to be, you would have to really think this through. I can't give an off-the-cuff answer, and you'd have to have scientists involved. But it would have to be highly contagious and highly deadly. And it would have to be that if I had the disease, if I was sick, and went out into the streets, I would be, is it contagious in the streets? It's not clear that it is. But, is it, it would be, it would have to be like, Ebola, but really, really contagious. Ebola is deadly, but not contagious. So it would have to be contagious like COVID and deadly like Ebola. Unlikely. We don't see those kind, because what happens when a disease is deadly is it kills off its host, and therefore transmission is minimized. Again, there has to be no treatment and no cure. But it's not clear that you'd have to force vaccinate. You'd have to force isolate, right? So and the lockdowns wouldn't have to be for everybody. The lockdowns would be for those who. So what you would do, potentially, is force testing. And then if you had the disease, you would be locked down. And if you didn't have, you'd be left alone. And you'd be offered a vaccine, but it's not clear that you would have to be vaccinated. The main thing is to lock down the people who carry the disease and are infectious. Anka Gate wrote a really, really good paper on this. What kind of laws would you have to pass? What things would you have to debate and discuss? What infrastructure would you have to create in advance? So he's arguing we need to write the law now, so when it comes, we have a process, rather than shooting from the hip when we get in that circumstances, which is what happened with COVID. And he gives an outline of what it would look like. So I highly recommend Anka Gate's piece that he wrote during COVID on the proper approach and what kind of legislation would have to be written. You can find it on the Ayn Rand Institute website. Equal to reality, sue the book printers for corrupting the youth. Well, we can just burn the books instead. And burn the people who read the books with them. It's even better. Jennifer, why does Puerto Rico experience so many outages? Just bad weather? Well, we have hurricanes. But no, it's got to do with bad planning and bad execution and shoddy workmanship. The reality is that the power plants were built on the opposite side of where people live. And in between the power plants and the people are mountains. And you go up the mountains and down the mountains. And so the grid is very susceptible to bad weather. But also, the various substations and the power plants themselves were not well built originally, and very little money has been put into maintaining them and improving them and sustaining them. So generally, lack of investment and by the government. Parts of it has been privatized, but they haven't been privatized properly. But what you need, I mean, Puerto Rico would be ideal for nuclear power. And indeed, there was an experimental nuclear power plant in Rincon in Puerto Rico, but it was shut down, salt base. And it was shut down, I think it was opened in the early 60s and shut down by the late 60s. So imagine Puerto Rico having 3, 4, 5 small nuclear power plants and put the nuclear power plants close to where the population is. And you would solve a lot of the problems with importing energy, natural gas and stuff. Problem with solar, even though it's sunny here, is unreliability, the intermediacy of it. And but you could back it up with a lot of batteries. But at the end of the day, you need something like, ideally, nuclear that doesn't need constant refueling and therefore shipping costs. And, small nuclear power plants, modular nuclear power plants all around the island would solve the problem and not susceptible to weather. Roman, smog can cause lung disease. Which actions should I, in a laissez-faire society, have to protect myself from smog? Courts, laws, product choice? Well, where you live. Like if smog really bothers you, if it's really problematic, move to somewhere where there's no smog. Plenty of places in America that don't have smog. Like if somebody moves to LA, you are accepting the trade-off between smog and convenience of living in LA. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things cause a little bit of disease. Flying, you can get the flu, you can get COVID, you can get all kinds of a cold by hanging out with other people. Who am I going to sue? Well, just don't fly if you're that worried. Don't live in LA. Wyoming, there's no smog in Wyoming. There's no smog, I don't know, in Utah. There's plenty, most of America, 90% of America is no smog zone. So a big part of it is where you live. Now, if there's a particular chemical being spewed out by particular people, not by everybody driving, but particular people, then sue them. Then you can sue them. Then the courts. But if it's something that everybody is using, now, I believe the cars get cleaner over time because engines get more efficient and there's less pollution. But smog is still an issue in some cities. Don't live in those cities. Move out. Mike says, just getting here, trying to break my internet addiction. Well, I'm insulted. It's not an internet addiction. It's a YBS addiction. Me. You're addicted to me. All right, Raphael. When I discuss objectivism with reasonable people, they can agree with some principles, but they always default in some pragmatic compromise. Where is the core error in their thinking? Well, there are a number. They don't integrate. They don't see the connection between all the issues, and they refuse to integrate it. And they refuse to think in principles. If the principle applies here, it applies everywhere. It's a principle. So they reject the idea of principles. And I think those are the two main ones. It could be others, but I'd say those are the two main ones. Lack of integration, integrated knowledge, a lack of a willingness or ability to, it's willingness, not really ability, willingness to think in principle and understand the role of principles and why principles apply universally. They're not whenever I feel like it, or whenever it's convenient, or whenever it doesn't contradict something I really, really, really want. Raphael, just to let you know, I'll be visiting the Louvre again next weekend. Super excited. Yeah, so cool. You'll have to tell me sometimes what your favorites at the Louvre are. Lincoln, lots to look forward to in biotech medicine soon. Improved IVF, extinction of animals, extending lifespan, de-extinction of animals, extending lifespan in pharmaceuticals, GLP-1s, etc. Yes, absolutely. So usually the good news sections of the Yaron Brook Show are made up of biotech and medical kind of stuff. Lincoln also, school wasn't useful for me 90% of my knowledge, for 90% of my knowledge. Books and YouTube taught me investing, history, basic programming, and now AI. Yeah, I think that makes complete sense. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you to all the super chatters. Thank you for the support. Don't forget Patreon. Go to Patreon, become a supporter. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the show. Like the show before you leave. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Tomorrow, I have to take my wife to the airport. So it might be later than usual. So it might be an evening show, at least my time tomorrow. Yes, likely to be an evening show tomorrow. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.